our shirt on Teespring.
A nation's budget is more than just numbers on a page. It's a statement. It tells us what we value, what we fear, and where we choose to invest our resources. And right now, America's budget is sending a very clear message. We're doubling down on enforcement, even if it means cutting corners elsewhere. This isn't about fiscal responsibility, it's about ideology. It's about choosing to fund a deportation force while other essential services are starved for resources. It's about prioritizing fear over compassion and detention over due process. This essay will delve into the alarming trend of escalating ICE funding, contrasting it with the shrinking budgets of vital social programs. We'll examine the data, debunk the myths, and explore the far-reaching consequences of this dangerous imbalance. Because when we prioritize enforcement over everything else, we don't just create a more punitive system, we create a less just, less humane, and ultimately less American society. This is a story about choices, and the choices we make today will have consequences for generations to come. A new GOP bill has sent shockwaves through the nation with its radical proposals for immigration enforcement. The bill, if passed, would allocate a staggering $45 billion for immigrant detention in the coming fiscal year. That's not a typo. We're talking about a 1,224% increase from the previous year's budget. This massive funding surge is designed to fuel a deportation machine unlike anything we've ever seen. The plan calls for the detention of an estimated 5 million individuals over 5 years. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the entire population of Ireland. But the spending spree doesn't stop there. The bill also earmarks billions for transportation and removal operations, along with funding for 10,000 additional ICE officers, agents and support staff. It's clear the GOP is betting big on enforcement, even if it means breaking the bank and countless lives in the process. The current push for increased ICE funding is not an isolated incident. It's the culmination of a decades-long trend of prioritizing enforcement over all other aspects of immigration policy. Since its creation in 2003, ICE has seen its budget balloon from $3.3 billion to a staggering $9.6 billion in fiscal year 2024. This exponential growth in funding has transformed ICE from a fledgling agency into a behemoth, with far-reaching powers and a mandate to detain and deport. And it's not just ICE. Customs and Border Protection, the agency responsible for policing our borders, has seen a similar surge in funding, with its budget skyrocketing to $19.6 billion in fiscal year 2024. This relentless focus on enforcement has come at a steep price. It has diverted resources from other crucial aspects of immigration, like processing asylum claims, reuniting families, and addressing the root causes of migration. And it has created a climate of fear and uncertainty in immigrant communities across the country. The story of America's immigration system is increasingly a tale of two budgets. On one hand, we have the ever-expanding budgets of ICE and CBP, fueled by a seemingly insatiable appetite for detention and deportation. On the other hand, we have the chronically underfunded agencies and programs tasked with upholding due process, providing humanitarian relief, and ensuring a fair and humane immigration system. Take, for example, the stark contrast between funding for immigration detention centers and the immigration courts themselves. In fiscal year 2024, detention centers received a whopping $3.43 billion, while the entire immigration court system, responsible for adjudicating the cases of hundreds of thousands of immigrants, received a paltry $840 million. This disparity in funding has real-world consequences. Immigration courts are plagued by backlogs, with some cases languishing for years. Immigrants facing deportation often lack access to legal representation, putting them at a severe disadvantage in a complex and often unforgiving system. And it's not just the courts that are feeling the pinch. The Refugee and Asylum Division of USCIS, responsible for processing asylum claims and providing protection to those fleeing persecution, received a meager $424 million in fiscal year 2024. This chronic underfunding has created a humanitarian crisis, with asylum seekers forced to wait years for their cases to be heard, often living in limbo and uncertainty. Section $5 and disparities. A closer look at the numbers. To fully grasp the extent of the funding disparities within the immigration system, it's helpful to look at the numbers. The proposed GOP bill, for instance, seeks to further pad ICE's coffers while simultaneously hiking fees for various immigration processes. Consider this. The bill proposes a $3,500 fee for sponsorships of unaccompanied alien children. These are some of the most vulnerable migrants, often fleeing violence and persecution, and the GOP's response is to make it more expensive to offer them a safe haven. Meanwhile, the bill earmarks billions for the construction and maintenance of border walls, despite overwhelming evidence that walls are ineffective at deterring migration and come with a hefty price tag for taxpayers. These funding choices are not about creating a fair or effective immigration system. They are about sending a message that America is closed off, that compassion has a price tag, and that enforcement reigns supreme. Section 6. Debunking the myths. No, ICE doesn't pay for tips on your neighbor. The push to ramp up immigration enforcement is often accompanied by a barrage of misinformation and fear-mongering. One persistent myth is that ICE offers rewards for reporting undocumented individuals. This is simply not true. While ICE does have a tip line, it is important to note that it is specifically designated for reporting criminal activity. ICE does not offer rewards for reporting civil immigration violations, nor does it encourage the public to report their undocumented neighbors, co-workers, or classmates. Spreading misinformation about ICE's activities only serves to sow fear and distrust within communities. It is crucial to rely on accurate information from credible sources and to avoid perpetuating harmful stereotypes and generalizations. Section 7. Communities under pressure. The human cost of enforcement. The consequences of prioritizing enforcement over all else are not just budgetary, they are deeply personal, playing out in the lives of real people and communities across the country. The constant threat of detention and deportation has created a climate of fear and uncertainty in immigrant communities. Families live in fear of being separated. Children are traumatized by witnessing ICE raids, and trust in law enforcement is eroded, making communities less safe for everyone. The human cost of enforcement is immeasurable. It is measured in the shattered dreams of those seeking a better life, the broken families torn apart by deportation, and the erosion of trust and social cohesion in communities across the nation. Section 8. A nation divided, the societal impact of funding choices. The decision to pour billions into immigration enforcement while neglecting other crucial services has far-reaching consequences for American society as a whole. When we divert resources from education, healthcare, and social services to fund a deportation force, we create a less just, less equitable, and ultimately less prosperous nation. Moreover, the relentless focus on enforcement fosters a climate of fear and division, pitting communities against one another. It undermines our values as a nation of immigrants and weakens the very fabric of our diverse society. The choices we make about immigration funding are not just about numbers on a balance sheet. They're about who we are as a nation, what we stand for, and the kind of future we hope to build. Section 9, a call to action, rethinking our priorities. The current trajectory of immigration policy, with its unwavering emphasis on enforcement, is unsustainable and ultimately self-defeating. It's time to rethink our priorities, to move beyond the politics of fear and division, and to embrace a more humane and effective approach to immigration. This requires a fundamental shift in perspective, one that recognizes that immigrants are not a threat to be contained, but a vital part of our social and economic fabric. It requires investing in solutions that address the root causes of migration, strengthen legal pathways to immigration, and uphold the dignity and rights of all people. We can choose a different path, one that embraces our shared humanity, recognizes the contributions of immigrants, and builds a more just and prosperous future for all. The time to act is now.